Okay.
This channel gets way more entertaining when we start drinking.
Why so hard, old tub? Why so hard?
It's anger in a bottle. 3 and 3, which equals 6. That would be really good. Welcome to our new channel, Bonded by Spirit. Glad you guys have joined us and here to listen to us talk about some of the things that we're interested in. Jason and myself, James, are here to tell you about some of the things we really enjoy. Specifically, bourbon, whiskey, some other spirits at times, cigars. I don't know, we could have some pretty wide-ranging topics, but mostly it'll be a channel about the spirits that we enjoy, and specifically bourbon. And you can see today that we have 3 and 3, which equals 6.
Carry the 2. Yes, that's correct.
5 of those are bourbons, and 1 is a whiskey. And we can talk a little bit about what makes something a bourbon and what makes something a whiskey, even though they're very similar in style. There's just some of the rules and laws that have been put in place for that. And all these bottles are specifically bottled in bond, which is a very narrow category of rules that some of the bourbon manufacturers have to follow to say that on their bottle. And we'll talk a little bit about those bourbons. We're glad you're here, and we certainly hope to hear your feedback about the things that we've talked about and things that you might want to see us do. So please enjoy this episode as we go through these bottled in bond bourbons.
So with the bottled and bond bourbons, the key here is that distillers have to go through a very rigorous government designed process to be able to have bottled and bond put on their label. With that, they have to have 100 proof, 51% corn. They have to be in oak charred barrels, brand new oak charred barrels, and they have to be aged for a minimum of 4 years in a government bonded warehouse. These types of things are not easy to accomplish. They do take a lot of distilling history to be able to get there. And most of the ones you'll see on the table are from well-known, very distinct distilleries that have been doing this for a very long time. So we're not going to be trying anything. Oh wait, we do have one new one that's not old. So we will be trying a new one today. That's actually one from our home state right here in North Carolina. No one's ever had. I've never had it, so I know James hasn't either. It'll be interesting that we all get to taste it together. But one of the things we want to do here is talk about what these bourbons mean to the industry, right? Where they came from, why it's, so important to have a bottled in bond in the distillery world. And we'll go through some tasting notes, what others, pick up. We'll try to pick up the same things. We'll maybe talk about which one might be our favorite, but we'll definitely try to get the distinction between that one whiskey and the rest of the bourbons and what the difference is in them.
The first bottle we're going to talk about today is our one and only bottled in bond whiskey. It is a George Dickel that meets all the criteria to be bourbon, except that it was filtered through sugar maple charcoal. It's made by the Cascade Hollow Distilling Company. It's made up of 84% corn, so really high percentage of corn, 8% rye, very small percentage there, and 8% barley. One of the interesting notes about this particular distillate is that it's the same basic recipe and distillate that's provided to Smooth Ambler, Heaven's Door, and barrel bourbons. They use the same basic beginning juice, and then from there they differentiate by where they might be in the rick house and how they're blended by their actual distiller and taster. This bourbon specifically is known to have notes of honey and maple syrup and creme brulee. It has a very sweet mouthfeel and a nice smooth finish. It's a very good product by George Dickel at a very good price. It can typically be found for under $50, which is unusual for a bottle that's been aged for 11 years. This was the Dickel's first offering with bottled in bond, and since then they have upped the age statement to 13 years in their subsequent releases. We don't have a 13-year bottle, but it would be interesting to try the 11 versus the 13.
The next bottle in our lineup is the Old Grandad Bottled in Bond, or OGD as some affectionately call it. Old Grandad has a mash bill of 63% corn, 27% rye, and 10% malted barley. And if that equals 100%, then we're all good at math.
I hope so.
tasting notes that have come from others, not me at this moment. I haven't tasted this, so I'll be interested to see if these come true. The nose is caramel, rye spice, pine, dry apricots, some fruity smells, cherry, mild to the moderate alcohol smell. Then the tasting notes are caramel, peanuts, light honey sweetness, which continues into the finish. And the finish is fairly soft, just a mild burn with some of the char developing at the end, and it's just a fairly mild overall taste. So I'll be interested to see if that comes through for my tastes.
Our next bottle that we're going to talk about is Evan Williams Bottled in Bond, a fairly famous brand made by a well-known distiller, Heaven Hill. It is a 78% corn, 12% malted barley, and 10% rye mash bill. The low amount of rye makes for a very smooth bourbon. That also means it's not quite as complex as some of the other offerings here, but it does make it very easy to drink. It's a very sweet bourbon. Vanilla, caramel, hint of gingerbread should come through, candied dark fruit. As far as the finish, it's going to finish fairly quickly with not a lot of lingering flavors just because of how smooth it is and the amount of rye that's in there. It's a very inexpensive offering that should be found at just about any liquor store you go in the country.
All right, next on the list is the Old Forester Bottled in Bond. So Old Forester, if you haven't heard of Old Forester, I don't know where you've been hiding. They've been around for a long time. This is clearly not a new bottle on anyone's shelf. It is a Brown-Forman distilling product. It's 72% corn. There's 18% rye and 10% malted barley in this one. The nose on this one should be fruity and floral, with a sweet and spicy palate, dark fruit, caramel, and vanilla lingering as a sweetness in the finish. Old Forester is clearly one of the longest running distilleries in the country, and their Bottle and Bond product is talked about widely on the internet. A lot of people like it. It comes in at a very good value, a little bit more than the others on the table, but very findable. It's not going to be hard to come across.
The next offering is going to be unique unless you happen to live in North Carolina. This is Southern Star Bottled in Bond. This is a product that's made in Statesville, North Carolina, and currently only distributed locally. So a little bit about Southern Star. It should have some wood-driven notes on the nose with a chocolatey barrel char, black pepper, and toasted oak. Sounds like a very complex sort of flavor. It skews more towards the savory end of the spectrum with buttery caramel, cream corn, and cinnamon toast. Interesting. And it finishes kind of sweet with notes of like Cracker Jack and caramel apple. It's going to be an interesting one for us to try, as it's the only one that we have that's actually locally made. And we always like to support local. The name of this bottle is Southern Star Paragon Bottled in Bond. It is also the only wheated Bottled in Bond that we have. And that should make a difference in how smooth it is and the drinkability of it, which is something that we'll talk about above and beyond sort of what flavors we might pick up. We'll also talk about if we actually enjoy the bourbon, drinking it neat, would it be better with a little bit of ice? But those are the things that we'll cover when we get to tasting.
Last but certainly not least on this list is Old Tub Bottled in Bond. It is another Jim Beam product distilled. It is, of course, the normal 100 proof that a bottled bond is. It is at least 4 years old. Most of these bottles that we have here don't have an age statement, for the exception of the Dickel. But to note, all bonded bourbon must be at least 4 years old. So it could be older. We don't know. In this case, the Old Tub is a 75% corn, a 13% rye, and a 12% malted barley. I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, that's the highest corn out of any of these at 75%.
I think one was over 80. One was 83.
One was 83. Was
Could
I?
have been the Dickel.
Oh, the Dickel is 84. 84. See, you're right. I needed to listen to my notes. Hang on. Let me check your notes. Oh, it is. He's right. Old, yeah, 75% corn, 13% rye, 12% malted barley. All right. Tasting notes on the Old Tub is oak, corn, and vanilla. Very thin mouthfeel. Little bit of, if Going back to mine.
Guy girl.
Going back to mine. This this unique bourbon has tasting notes that include oak, complemented along with grain, and a warm caramel. It has a lingering color of golden citrine gemstone with shades of honey, an aroma that carries initial waves of oak followed by vanilla and grape.
I don't know if
Who
I
wrote
want
that?
to drink this.
Who
or I wanna
wrote
wear
that?
it on my
I
finger
want
like
to
a
know.
gemstone or
Whoa,
something.
whoa! I need
That
to.
is some marketing amazingness.
I'm thinking. Is that,
Oh, my
is that
word.
Pulitzer material?
Well, like with all of the tasting notes that we've shared with you, this has been sort of a professional reviewer's tasting notes.
Right.
So they have super palates and they can pick up a bunch of different flavors that Jason and I, we won't pick up. We might pick up a little bit of it, or how much of it will be sort of planted in by the fact that
can
somebody
pick up
told
the
us we
glass.
should taste that. But don't be discouraged if somebody says, oh, it's going to have this in it and you don't taste it, because chances are most of us won't pick up the subtle flavors, but we should pick up the big pieces, and we definitely should be able to tell what we like and what we don't like. And that's the biggest thing that's a takeaway for me from the bourbon channels that I've watched before is I really, really wanted to find a channel that would just talk about the bourbon, how it tasted to them, and if they liked it or not and why. And that's sort of a part of our mission here, is to just be a relatable bourbon channel, that we're just two guys that aren't professionals at all, tasting things that we find and giving you sort of the scoop as we see it as to whether or not it might be something that you would enjoy based on what you like to try.
In full disclosure for me, I've only had the Evan Williams Bottled and Bond. I have not had any of these other products, especially not the one, the Southern Star in North Carolina. Just stumbled upon that recently, so figured we'd save that for the video as well, being a Bottled and Bond. I was amazed to find one in North Carolina that did that. But yes, other than that, I have only tried. Have you tried any of these?
Only the Evan Williams.
Oh, wow. So
Same.
we're okay.
We're in the same boat.
Alrighty then. So it'll be very interesting to see if we pick up any of those. We may have to refer back to our notes to see if we even come close to what a master
Yeah, we'll
sipper
definitely bring that back and see if we can pick any of that
I'm going
up.
to need to, because
And,
that's a lot
We're
to
going to
remember.
go ahead and cut out for just a minute here while we go to our sponsors, of which we have none, and open these bottles so you don't sit here and watch us open.
That's right. Stay tuned. This is.
Come on, Jason, you're better than that, aren't you? I already got all three of mine done.
Did you? I was looking for a knife. You had a knife.
I had a key.
I'm a hack.
He has little hands.
Where's my little? I'm trying to open the bourbon, James.
Yeah.
Rest that little hand.
Yes. Okay. All right. I think.
Don't blame him for bad genes.
All
At
right.
some point, we're going to be
All
here
right.
like, all right, we're gonna combine our channel with Drunk History.
Yes. We would like you to switch channels now and go to Drunk History and then come back.
Today we're going to talk to you about the election of 1800.
All right, let's see. Okay. This is cute. This is fun. This is a lot of fun. Why so hard, old tub? Why so hard? Not only do you have a Shakespearean tasting note.
It starts well, then it's all long-faced about some Rosaline. Where's the comedy, Will? Where's the dog?
There you go.
You have a freaking ridiculous. Okay. Yep. Okay. We got it. We're good. Okay. All right. Tub on, Tubby.
Don't make me think. I just want to be entertained.
All right. There we go.
By the way, do we want to pause to get some water or anything?
Yeah, let's
Yeah.